Thanks for staying with us. She's a trusted expert in work-life solutions for working parents and also the founder of Mother Honestly, a complete ecosystem reshaping the future of women and families at home and in the workspace. Welcome with us, Blessing Adesiyan in the building. How you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. A little exhausted, staying up with a baby.
Oh, yeah.
A 1-year-old.
Nothing.
1-year-old.
Yes,
Oh,
she just
yeah.
turned 1, and we are weaning her off of formula. So, yeah, it's been a challenge.
How many kids you got?
I have 4 kids.
Oh, my Lord.
Wow,
Age?
Mariah's youngest.
So my first is 13 and a half. My son is 4 and a half. My daughter is 3, and the baby is 1.
Oh, back to back, man.
Back to
You
back.
the gap.
That long between.
So the gap was really for my career. You know, I had my daughter, the first one, you know, at an early age. So I said, you know what, let me focus on my career. Did that for, you know, 9, 10 years, and it was then back to back.
Maybe popping time.
Right.
Nice, fantastic. Good.
It's by chance that I'm still standing.
So we heard about Mother Honest, and we're thinking, what does this mean? How did it start? First of all, what does it do? And how did it start?
So Mother Honestly, we started in 2018. So at the time I was working, you know, in corporate America. So just backstory, I left Nigeria at a very early age and, you know, went to the US to study chemical engineering. So when I finished my undergraduate degree, that was when I had Tayo. So I went into the workplace with a baby. So I was one of those people that, you know, I didn't have the same experience as most women, right? Most women would go, you're still single, you're sort of, you know, living your best life, and eventually you meet a man and, you know, and you get married. I literally walked in with a baby in hand. And so I think that really shaped my experience around what does the workplace offer women? And so I started asking questions, and I realized that nothing. I mean, pretty much you were just told to come, sit your, you know, behind down and get cracking like everybody else. And so I started questioning, you know, the system. And that was how Mother Honestly started. So we started with literally having conversation about how can we elevate this conversation around care in the workplace. Because, you know, it used to be that, you know, men were in the workplace, right? And women stayed home, caring for the kids and, you know, doing all of this work. And so they had unlimited time to do a lot of things. And so now that women are in the workplace, we're seeing all of that, even here in Nigeria, where women are getting more degrees, women are making more money. And so now that women are in the workforce, you know, the question is, how do we then ensure that the workplace works for everyone? That it not just works for men, but it literally works for women, works for every caregiver of all kinds.
So when you now found your experience, you know, walking into the workplace with your baby in hand, what did that tell you about what other women have gone through before you came into the space?
Well, I think the first thing I thought was, how in the world did anybody not tell me? I felt very betrayed, to be honest. I felt very betrayed, you know, because I thought, wow, everyone made it look easy, right? You know, you would see everyone, you know, in their nice makeup and they're wearing that pencil skirt. I don't know if you all remember, like 10 years ago, you just see this, you know, nice suited up lady. And so I was like, what? You all were going through this? Literally waking up in the morning, you know, I call it the morning grind, you know, getting the kids ready. Okay, who has their lunchbox? Who has their backpack? All right, have you eaten? Did you pack lunch? You basically do all of this work before you even start work. And I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me? So I felt very betrayed by that. And I think that started, you know, my background is in engineering, so I'm a natural problem solver. And so I just went into problem solving mode. I'm like, so how do we do this? Because what I found was the impact, right? In the workplace, more and more you'll find that when women have kids, they're no longer respected in the workplace. And so I started asking the question, you know, how can women be respected? So what do we need to do in order to...
What are some of the solutions you preferred so far? So in the workplace, is it to get more daycares, creche for the workplace, or do you have more leave for women? What exactly are some of those things you think you've been able to help women to achieve with this Mother Honestly?
So what Mother Honestly have done is we work with women, and we also work with corporations, we work with employers. And so what we do is really try to understand the caregiving responsibilities of people in the workplace. Because, you know, when I said 4 kids, right, you probably all assumed that my 4 kids were healthy, right? You don't know if I have a special needs child. You don't know if my husband is sick. You know, you don't have a clue. And that's what we found through our research. And what honestly is, employers just have no idea. So the first thing that we do is try to understand the caregiving care, I call it the care load of the organization. That way we can start to put in place systems and structures, because we may find that we don't need crèche. If all your employees have kids, over 5 years old, then a crèche is just a waste of our time, right? So understanding the needs of the organization and then being flexible enough to make changes as the needs change is what we found to be successful.
So I'm a very communal person. I grew up helping my aunties. I remember when I was in the university, my auntie at the time was with Charms, one big company everybody wanted to work, and then she had a baby. And so they just called me from school. She has a baby. Go and, So what I know is that everybody puts their hands on to help you make life easy for you. So you have a younger sister, she's there. So when I got married, I didn't have that help, and that was my first shock. But I also understand leaving work for a while, then getting back to work. So which of our ways here as Africans are you aware of? Have you found out, and which one have you deployed successfully, and how would you say it helps?
Yeah, I think that, to your I heard you mention the community, and not once did you mention a man, right?
Oh, of course.
And that's because in our community, we depend on women for care.
Yeah.
So whether that is a sister or, the next door neighbor, it's more than likely a woman that will step in and say, oh, let me help you with that child, let me support you. I think here in Nigeria, some of the first things that we picked up, and we're starting to work with a lot of companies and a lot of women, and some of the first things that we picked up is, women here are actually doing a lot, especially in the workplace. And one of the things that we did was gather data, because data is important. So in our data, we can see that Nigerian women are making more money. Some of them, in fact, the average Nigerian woman is actually making more money than their partner. I don't know that we've dug into the data, on a national level. But the data that we collected, we are seeing that more women are making more money than their partners, but they're also doing a lot of the house chores. Yeah. They're also the one managing the affairs of the home. And so some of the things that we've picked up in how do we support women in Nigeria is honestly the mental overload and the burnout. Women are burning out because they're doing way too much on the work front as well as on the home front. So a lot of the resources that we have is how do we support you? How do we help, take some of those tasks off of your plate? Is that outsourcing? Is that you having the right resources? Is that connecting with giving you the ammunition to go back to your employer and ask for, some of these benefits? I know it's very tough. In the US, I'm always like, go out there, get it, talk to your employer. But, in Nigeria, you sort of need to be strategic, right?
Yeah,
you can't just come out and make those demands. You can't just come out and make those demands. But, I also want to say that I see a lot of companies in Nigeria that are stepping up. I talk to some companies and they're like, oh, we have crèche, we offer paid, maternity leave. These are things that doesn't even exist. At least, in the United States, there's no federal mandated paid leave, for example, right?
What you said now just reminded me my first maternity leave. I wasn't paid because I hadn't done 1 year in the organization before I get belly. So I went home. We're just starting life. Everything was based on what you're getting, what I'm getting. And for 3 months, I was not paid one thing. But I wanted to ask you the question concerning women's mental health when they're taking in so much. I had a family member who recently gave birth to a baby, and she was diagnosed with, what's this?
Postpartum depression.
Postpartum depression. She will see the baby. She wants to. That was the first time I was meeting someone who had that. And then she was expected to resume work while she was still in that state. She hadn't finished her therapy and all of that. Do you have, in all of these, your podcasts and conferences that you do you have that space where you are catering to the mental health of women, especially those ones who are taking in so much?
Absolutely. And so part of it is, a lot of people don't even have a language for it. And so part of what we drive is awareness. That's the first place, right? Because if you don't even know that you're going through something, you can't put you can't name it. Then, what we found is that a lot of women then, they start imagining things. Or they start saying, you know what, it's just me. I'm the problem. I'm the one. I don't love this baby. I don't love my husband. I don't love my work. But when we have forums like Mother Honestly and our conferences and our podcasts and events, and we start having these conversations, they're like, oh, you know what? Actually, what I was going through could possibly be this, right? And then they can take that back to their, whether it's to their doctor, their pediatrician, whoever it is that manages their health.
So, listen, you're doing a lot making women aware of the things that they need to do, but the awareness to, family members. For instance, postpartum depression is something strange to our mothers.
Yeah.
They have a traditional way of dealing with it. It is 40 days mugo, 3 months of mugo, it depends on whatever. So they have given you the support. Nobody understands why you don't want to see your baby. You do okay. In picking
don't shop winch.
You don't shop winch, So how are you raising awareness so that people understand and know the kind of support to give to a woman going through some?
Yeah, so that is a tough one, the community piece, because, if you're not going through it, right, it's hard for you to even want to sit down and listen. So what we tell women is, to take some of these information back to their partner or to their community. I always say start with a partner. That is always the biggest issue because, especially here in Nigeria, we are traditional, which is great. I'm a very traditional person as well. But I think that we sort of need to start trying to balance things because, and I use this word, if your partner considers you, right, then they want to help you even the load and they want to help you get the support that you need. And if they're also aware of those situations, for example, this postpartum depression, your partner can say, you know what, please give my wife some time, right? I think we have an issue here, right? And what we find is that society respects men, our society. So if the husband comes out and says, please don't touch my wife.
Everybody will align.
We just had a baby and I think that there's something going on here. But over here we have this savior mentality that women are strong, women can do it all.
Or if your husband no agree, you better pray he finds out.
Or if your husband is like, what do you mean? You just had a baby, is that why you cannot cook?
Hey,
so many issues.
I think you're working on the conference. So what exactly is the objective of your conference? Because when women gather, they always wonder, oh, the same old thing. What are we talking about? Why is there a need to have a conference?
I think part of this is going to be Mother Honestly's first conference, and we are partnering with Lagos Moms, Yeti Williams. This is going to be their night, so we basically came together to collaborate on this. And one of the things that, when Yeti and I met, what I told her was, I want us to challenge the status quo, right? To start bringing to the surface level these conversations. They are hard, they're difficult. It's hard for, when I speak to some moms, here in Nigeria, and I say, talk to your husband. Why is this uneven? They're like, bless him. Oh my God, you want to mess my, you want to scatter my house and all this, So really, first, this conference is about having the conversation, those difficult conversations around equal partnership at home. I know that it's tough, but when I say equal partnership, I think we should roll it back. Equity. It doesn't have to be 50-50, right? So having that conversation. And then the conversation about how do we elevate this conversation even in the workplace? Because part of how we're going to change the workplace is by demanding for some of these things. We can't just sit and accept it. So giving people not the, go to your manager and lay down all of these demands, but at least how do we start these conversations, whether it's with HR, with, DEI.
I hope you have experiences that you'd share to help women maybe be able to relate the example. So my first child, there was a difficulty switching into motherhood because I dealt with infertility. And so for my husband, it was like, this is the crown. You don't get the baby. Can everybody just go back and be free? And so I lost support for a while, for close to 6 months.
Wow.
And it was overwhelming. And I tried to communicate it, but there was no example until an x-ray showed that my heart was swollen.
Wow.
And he started to beg at the hospital. He would want to kill me because I had a baby. Jesus. So the reality of what the possibility of losing one partner came with that result. Right. If we did not have to get to the hospital to say this, I was having postpartum situations and there was something physical to show, he would never understand how this is. So if women were sharing some of these examples, it will help other women who are going through it be able to relate. It's possible that this happens to me. Would you have,
Yeah, and at the conference on Saturday, we're going to have breakout sessions. And the goal is for people to be able to share their own experiences. I'm going to give you an example. A lady sent me a DM and said, Blessing, I'm finally leaving, which I thought was weird because, usually when I get DMs, it's, Blessing, you want to scatter my marriage. So I said, okay, let me read this. And she said, I have 3 kids and the baby was up all night. I said, well, at least we have something in common. But, what ended up happening was, she took the kids to school, of course, got them ready, went to work, When she got back, you know, the husband was home. She met the husband home. She brought the 3 kids in and, you know, proceeded to serve dinner. So she grabbed leftovers from the fridge. The husband started fuming and complaining that, you know, you're serving me leftovers. But, you know, she didn't say anything. Everybody carried on. So they had dinner and she said, okay, can you take one of the kids to bed? I'm really tired. So apparently she's been the one taking all 3 kids to bed herself, right? So the husband said, no, because you served me leftovers. So therefore, you are on your own. And this is somebody that was already up all night. So, of course, she was exhausted and tired. And so these are, again, some of the examples of how, as a society, women need to start having these conversations, 1. And then 2, how do we even get men in the room as well? So that this is not a woman's issue, right? This is a societal issue.
I was going to ask you, maybe it's time for us to do father honestly. Because
honestly.
a lot of, we spend so much time talking about the girl child. And now we found that the boys are deficient.
Yeah,
so we don't want to spend so much time with women also, forgetting that the men also,
stand up with the
we need
deficient
them.
men.
Yes, we need men to also understand the challenges they have in their face, so maybe they can make better decisions in the corporate world also, especially when it concerns women.
And I think it's also showing the value, right? So when I tell people, I say, you know, my husband is always like, listen, you have to think like a man if you want to solve these problems. It's also, how do you communicate the value to a man? Right, that you should be, no man wants to go out there scrubbing toilets and, you know, taking care of the kids. They're like, you know, that is beneath me or that's somebody else's job.
Understand.
Right? And that is because, you know, as a society, we've just always assumed that women will work for free. That women will show up and they will, you know, they will have our back. I mean, every society in the world, right, literally runs on the back of the unpaid labor of women, which is something that I'm passionate about. But you talked about the girl child. 160 million hours. That is the number of hours that girl kids between 5 and 14 spend every year in unpaid work. More than a boy. It's not like that is the total.
Happening in my house.
More than a boy. And, you know, and those are the things. It's also for as us women to challenge our assumptions. Why is it that it's the girl you're calling to do the dishes? And your son is sitting down doing homework
TV,
or watching
ball.
You know, when I was growing up, you know, I was the first 4. Out of, you know, eight kids. I was the 3rd, and I had brothers. And, you know, they would assign me my work that, oh, blessing, you don't want to do dishes. Me, I would just take off. You know, my dad would call, and then eventually I started wearing jeans and shirts. I said, you know what, actually, I'm a boy in this house.
All of us.
All of us
equal.
I said, you know what, I'm actually a tomboy, and I'm actually studying. So eventually my daddy gave me a pass. He was like, Blessing is doing well, she's getting A's. You know, my mom was like, no, she's supposed to be joining the other girls. So one day I finally stood up. I said, you know what, how about you get your boys to do work in this house? And so since that day, you know, my mom, because my mom is also a feminist, but, you know, sometimes, the culture, you know, my mom was like, you know what? You are actually right. Why does he get to have a pass? So, but what is the value there, right? And I'm going to give an example. I'm going to use my husband. So we had my daughter, my 4th child. And, of course, I was pregnant. I always have C-section. So this was my 4th C-section. So, of course, I told everybody. I put on Instagram, y'all, this is the last baby. We can't do this again. And then, you know, because that was the last one, you know, my husband was like, you know what? You cannot be going up and down the stairs. Let me take on more responsibilities. So, you know, it was the one, you know, scrubbing the toilet, giving the kids a bath. So one day I just said, let me stroll up and see what these people are all about. You know, I strolled up and I saw, you know, him. My husband is a germaphobe. He does a better job than me. So he's scrubbing the bathtub and changing. And you notice that he already purchased from Amazon, you know, the bath mats, toys, squeaky toys. He has all of these different things. And because he's a germaphobe, he's only bathing one kid at a time, you know. And he rearranges everything when the first child is done, and then he's getting under their nails. I say, ha.
Yeah.
Because me, I would just throw them.
You have it.
You need to see me bathe myself.
And now they are singing. They have, you know, they have this amazing
time together.
And so, to me, that is the value that we need to communicate to men. That is his humanity that he can now take with him. That his children will remember forever.
Yes, they never forget.
Because he
that's
was
the
there.
bonding time.
Right? It is in these little things that our humanity develops. Think about the person who walked you to school on your first day. Right? Think about the person who, you know.
I'm presently being jealous of my husband. I heard the word BFF for the first time and he wasn't addressed at me. My house. BFF, best friends forever. And they did not address me.
They did not address
the kids gave him that award.
I'm telling you. Because you see, they pay attention to details when it comes. When my husband takes care of the kids, he takes care. But me, I have too many things to do. I don't have time to sponge any
I
shine.
don't know where you
Stop
get,
your
I don't know where
body.
you get this kind of husbands from.
Can we swap?
French.
This is why we all need to be, we need to be sharing so that we know what is possible, right?
I mean, they're there all the time. It's just a few times.
No, mine is
So is the
there.
conference free? Are we coming there or just show up? We have to register?
The conference is not free, but we do have some open slots. So if anybody needs tickets, please reach out to us. We are at Prosper Summit. Send us a DM, and we have some tickets that we can make available to a few more people. But, you know, we are honestly excited. I think what really excites us is actually the companies in Nigeria. Because me, I told Yeti, I said, I don't have money to come and be doing advertisements and stressing myself. So we went to employers and we were just very surprised. Companies were saying, you know what, we're sending 20 employees, we're sending 30 employees. So to me, that communicates to me that, you know what, our people are ready for change. And I think that we need to hold on to that. And we need to really start driving that awareness of what is working and what is not. Because if not, we're just going to have a society where our women are exhausted, stressed, burned out.
Cussing. You know, women, African women. Is your father's people constantly
Resentment starts building.
Yeah, I look at my mom now. You know, I'm always like, why was that woman crazy?
cussing all the time.
I said, why was this woman crazy?
All the time.
I just look back and I'm like, my mom was always crazy. You know, sometimes she will roll something at us. And I remember now that, you know, what I know now is that it's rage and resentment.
Yeah, resentment.
A lot of what I've seen with a lot of Nigerian women, when we surveyed, the women we surveyed, 50% came back and said they were doing more than their partner. And another, 20% said they think they are doing slightly. So let's just say 75% are doing way more managing the household responsibility. And so that creates rage. Right, and resentment towards your partner.
Because that's not how we are wired. We are wired for the soft life. We're made from Adam, from the rib, from the crude. We're made from finished products. And we are meant to live the soft life.
I don't disagree. I honestly don't disagree. I think that, one of the things that I tell people is we need to start thinking about self-care. It's something that is a productive thing for us to do as women. Because I just see so many Nigerian women, we are out there just doing it for us.
My darling, I'm
once
letting
my husband makes the first $10 million, I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm just home, eating and just having
I'm telling you, you need it.
Okay, there's a message online. It says, I will say it again, it's the mothers that raise the men. If we don't stop these gender roles in the house, they won't get it.
Oh, thank you so much, Blessing, for joining us. So we'll definitely see if we can get some tickets for our viewers who are interested. She's going to be giving us some free tickets for some of our viewers. It's a pleasure having you on the show. I just hope that there was something you told me when I met you. You talked about, you gave me a figure of how much we're losing, the GDP we could have contributed into the economy if women are allowed to work in the hours.
It is $1.9 trillion. So that is the number of hours that women spend on unpaid work. Think about that. That is more than the GDPs of
some countries.
Countries, like even the US. It's like 6 top countries. That is their GDP. That is money that we're leaving on the table because we refuse to monetize this work. We don't value it because women are doing it for free, right? The minute we start to value it, that is money that can now go into the GDP. And we can now start monetizing.
Pay you for
cooking.
And maybe he doesn't have to be the one to pay, but at least we value it. Let's just even start with value.
Put an amount to it.
You know, let's
start
valuing it. Because why should we assume that, a woman's work is free?
It comes with the package.
Yeah, it comes with, so I was telling, there was a man on Diary of Niger Girl that said that, that his wife is not making fresh food for him daily.
Yes.
And I was like,
so someone is asking on Twitter.
Pay for those late night midnight cooks. She would definitely
do it. Yes, before.
You work everything out.
That is all we can take on the show. Thank you so much, Blessing. I hope you learned a few things as we have.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye for now.